Now we know. Now we know where they want to go. They just said it. End the filibuster, expand the court, forget the Constitution. Now we know. Let's be honest. They've told us what they want to do. Their real beef is with the Second Amendment. Their real beef is with the Second Amendment.
Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs of Valor, and what I'm going to talk about in this video today is a pretty serious subject, especially when we have a sitting congressman in office who has vowed to literally destroy our system of government. You know, unlike Democrats and rhinos, I try not to respond to things emotionally. That's very usually passionately is one thing, emotionally is a different. I try to think about things and give good information to you taking the time watching this video. So obviously the spirit of debate in the air right now is about firearms and what kind of legislation needs to be brought about. Here's a hint, I believe, none. That needs to go into making this country safer for children. And should we strip away people's Second Amendment for safety? Absolutely not. Our founding fathers talked about a Second Amendment being necessary to the security of a free state. So the language that these Democrats are using is stuff like weapons of war. And I'm so tired of hearing lazy, uneducated, inarticulate forms of expression, how they use that stuff. Weapons of war. You know, technically speaking, we could, a knife would be a weapon of war. Technically speaking, any firearm could be a weapons of war. So I've got an example right here. This is an M1. This was a World War II, literally manufactured and used in World War II. These have been sold over many decades to the American people by the United States government, as well as civilian marksmanship programs. So these have literally been used in wars. They've been used in World War II, they were used in Korea, some of them were even used in Vietnam, and in many other places around the world. So this one here, this rifle here, I've used it a lot. I shot it this Memorial Day. And so, you know, this would be considered a weapon of war according to the Democrats, yet completely legal, sold by the millions for the last several decades. Same could be said about this 1911 pistol. This is a pre-World War I Colt 1911. This has been issued and it's been carried in wars. This was carried in World War I. This was carried in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, all the way up to. But this was my grandfather's, and he brought it home from the Navy when he fought in World War II in Okinawa. So this is would be considered a weapon of war according to the Democrats. But you know, we're not dealing with logical people here. We're dealing with emotionally stunted mental midgets who can't articulate things rationally, and they have to have emotion and theatrics and all kinds of theater and all kinds of emotional setup and payoffs in order to pull at the heartstrings of people. I will let the imbecile Mondaire Jones from New York say it in his own words, and you can watch this clip. Try to keep your blood pressure low, try to keep your heart rate low as you listen to this imbecile who's probably going to be killed by fried chicken before he's killed by any firearms. So go ahead and get started on this one.
We can't let you get away with this anymore. Enough is enough. Enough of you telling us that school shootings are a fact of life when every other country like ours has virtually ended it. Enough of you blaming mental illness and then defunding mental health care in this country. Enough of your thoughts and prayers. Enough. Enough. You will not stop us from advancing the Protecting Our Kids Act today. You will not stop us from passing it in the House next week, and you will not stop us there. If the filibuster obstructs us, we will abolish it. If the Supreme Court objects, we will expand it. And we will not rest until we have taken weapons of war out of circulation in our communities. Each and every day, we will do whatever it takes to end gun violence, whatever it takes.
So I want you to take that in. I want you to take in his language. Exactly what he said was that we're not going to stop until we get our way. Now, in short, what that literally is the language of every tyrannical regime in the history of any sort of the last 100 years. You would listen to the same language. We don't like the Supreme Court, we're going to change it. We don't like the senatorial rules, we're going to change it. We're not going to let our colleagues in the House, they're not going to stop. We're going to ram this stuff through. And then last but not least, they want to talk about just literally changing the form of government that we're in. This guy took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Now he's talking about violating it at literally every branch of government that there is, and saying nothing short of trying to strip away 1/10 of your and my constitutional protected liberties. Now, the other problem that you're going to run into is that he wants to use people with guns to enforce his policy of having people with no guns. So to be a libtard, to be a far leftist, you have to hold two diametrically opposed positions at once in order to reconcile your mental lunacy. So the other language that they use is that they need to confiscate our property. First of all, they ain't confiscating anything, all right? That's number one, because that ain't going to fly. That'll happen real short term, and then they're going to realize, wow, it's not as easy as it sounds. One other thing I wanted to discuss is that they want to talk about protecting our kids. You won't stop us from protecting our kids. Yet this is the party of open infanticide. This is the party that's killed tens of millions of children who couldn't even protect themselves in the womb and even exiting the womb. Like, they're totally willing and fine doing that. These are the same party talks about protecting kids when they openly bring out sexual perverts to teach them in kindergarten and first grade by men dressing in women's clothing and twisting their little minds. Like, they have no problem doing that. They also have no problem having your kids listen to all kind of gender theory being taught in public school curriculum. It's garbage. You know, they have no problem whatsoever injecting kids with experimental medicine that hasn't even been tested hardly even a year. They have no problem doing that. But then they'll say we're protecting our kids. And then when you stop and think, without being an emotional, without being too crazy and keyed up on things, they won't tell you that you're more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to be involved in a school shooting. You're literally more likely to be struck by lightning. That is statistical truth right there. And they hate numbers. They hate truth. So just want to throw that stuff out there. Of course, we need to figure out the root of the whole problem in Uvalde. And what happened in Uvalde is that you had failure of government at many levels of this little dirtbag 18-year-old, I'm not even going to say his name, who definitely has questionable circumstances surrounding him, whether, that's involvement with certain groups, whether that's how, in the first place, how he could afford all that stuff. And then we're getting into a whole nother conversation, but let's not go there. Let's stick to the facts, and let's figure out that it was government that perpetuated the problem. You had a police officer who failed to let other police officers get in the building. He also did not allow armed citizens to go into school and try to and save people. He didn't allow them to happen. The investigations into this little dirtbag before it happened. Failure by an agency of government. They investigated him. They knew he was Looney Tunes. They knew he was mentally unfit to be out in public, yet they did nothing about it. Another failure by investigations. Another failure by law enforcement to get in the fight. And once again, just like Parkland, these police officers stay outside of the building and wait and wait and wait. It's a failure of government. And by the way, those schools stripped teachers their Second Amendment to carry in that school. And so they're depriving people of their Second Amendment when a teacher, a coach, a guidance counselor, a principal, whoever, and I know Texas has a Guardian program where they arm their teachers and teach them how to engage active shooter threats, did not participate in that. So we have failures of government on multiple levels. And yet these imbeciles in the Democrat Party want to have more government in order to solve government-created problems in the first place. I find it very disingenuous. What they'll fail to tell you is that these shootings occur in gun-free zones where people have been stripped of their Second Amendment in the first place, unable to protect themselves, and those kind of policies and rules prevent people from enacting their God-given right to self-protection. And to the third point of BS rhetoric, that guns are for killing and there's no place in them in a civilized society. First of all, guns aren't just for killing. Guns are for stopping threats. And if you've ever been around for anybody for 10 minutes who's actually been using them for real against violent adversaries that has any working knowledge whatsoever about it, we are shooting to stop people from killing us, our family, our friends, or others in our community. They're not for killing people, for stopping threats. And if that's the case, if guns are only for killing people, I would like to ask the congressman from New York, as he's surrounded by Capitol police officers with firearms, as he's surrounded by Secret Service agents with firearms, as he's surrounded by the sergeant at arms in the very chamber that he's talking about guns killing people in, he's protected by that layer of armed security every single place that he goes. He's protected and his family's protected by the guns that he doesn't want you to have. And if guns are all for killing people, man, then I would say, this is the stupidest statement that I've ever heard anybody say in my life. Now, I think it's safe to say at this point that these people are not hiding who they really are anymore. And the days of believing nobody's coming for your guns or I believe in the Second Amendment, but those days are over. Like anything they say is bullcrap. Anything they say is a lie, and I'm not going to fall for it anymore, and neither should you. They have no legitimacy whatsoever. They need to be removed from their positions of office, and I would outright throw them in jail for sedition. And the other point that I'm trying to make to you guys is this. At no point whatsoever should anybody watching this video comply with anything, even if it somehow manages to pass and signed by the demented debentor-in-chief when it gets to his desk. At no time is that a valid law. At no time is violating the Constitution valid. At no time is stripping away the Bill of Rights valid. And I can tell you this, if they want to keep pushing this deal, and I think that we're probably on the same page here, if they really want to keep pushing and abolishing the Second Amendment, just like fat boy Michael Moore wants to do, and he talks about all that stuff, if these people really want to push an outcome, then they may need a reminder of why the Second Amendment was put in place to begin with.
This is just the beginning. Their goal, plain and simple, is to get rid of the Second Amendment. Joe Biden said it the other day. He said he wants to ban 9mm handguns. Michael Moore said it last week. Time to repeal the Second Amendment, he said. We know where the Democrats want to go, and they don't care about the Constitution. Mr. Bishop pointed that out just a few minutes ago. They know the age limit in this bill is unconstitutional. We just had a decision last month from the most liberal circuit in the country. Said it's unconstitutional. They know the storage provisions are unconstitutional. The Heller decision said so. They don't care. Forget the Constitution. They want to change the country in so many dramatic ways. The gentleman from New York just talked about getting rid of the filibuster, packing the court. We know they want to pack the court because the chairman of this committee introduced a bill 14 months ago to pack the court.
If you found the information in the video helpful, subscribe to the channel, follow me on social media. That link is down below. And if you want to learn how to use firearms to protect yourself and your family, come on out to Valor and we can help you. This is Reid Henrichs of Valor reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.